Woodwork Podcast. We are your hosts, Josh from Josh Taylor Woodworking, Paul from JCR Builds, and today we have a special guest on, Tommie from Black Label Carpentry Co.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Yeah,
appreciate
good morning, evening. Welcome to the show. This is our first transatlantic recording that we've done. So we have obviously myself in the UK. Tommie is 5 or 6 hours behind us, and Josh in Australia, 9 hours ahead. So it has taken a little bit of organisation on our part and messing around, trying to sort out the recording. So, thanks for joining us, Tommie. Could you tell us all a bit about yourself, where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm originally from England. I was born there, and I moved to Florida in USA at the age of 7. Currently 28 years old, so I've been in the US for about 21 years now, come July. Grew up here as a kid, went through all the school, and about the age of 17, I started working for a general contractor, and I did all different trades. I did plumbing, electrical, carpentry, so I got a taste for everything. And really what they did is just let me know what I did and didn't like, and I fell in love with the carpentry. And it's funny, looking back as a kid, I always did carpentry as a kid, I had no end goal in mind. I was just cutting wood, nailing it together. I was just enjoying myself, and now I do it for a living. So yeah, it's like I say, I'm pretty blessed.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, cool. It's quite. So you started off doing like a multi-trade then with a company. So
yes.
Was that sort of like more of a maintenance type role, or was it still building full houses from the start scratch?
It was kind of a bit of both, really. We didn't build full-on houses. It was more like remodels. But it gave me the chance to go repair pavers on a driveway. And then the next day I might be doing some drywall patching, stucco patching, hanging drywall, and then, of course, doing things like trim carpentry, pressure washing. So really just around and did absolutely everything that you can imagine. And then being in Florida, I was outside a lot. So I quickly realized that I didn't do too well in the sun, and the heat got to me. So I really enjoyed the inside trades. I do like paint, funny enough, but I just don't do that full time. I kind of pick and choose.
Yeah, nice. How long have you been running a business?
So in the trim carpentry, I've been doing it now for about 9 years. But self-employed, I decided to start my own business just before COVID. So timing-wise,
Awful.
It was the best and worst timing ever. On one side, I said, okay, this is terrible, but if I can make it through this, I felt like I could make it through anything. So I had to really think on my toes. And at that time, I did trim carpentry, but I loved furniture. And I thought, well, I can still woodwork, but I now need to do it at home. So I started building custom furniture, live edge slabs, and I did that for about a whole year. And it was a little slow at first, but it actually became really successful over the year. But I also learned that making furniture was a really difficult business to be in. People didn't necessarily want to pay for your entire time. And it's really difficult sometimes to sell people on a dining table that might be 15 to 20,000 US dollars. To you and I, we look at it and go, well, I put all this time in. And some clients didn't bat an eyelid when I gave them that price tag. And the other ones said, I'm not too sure. But it was really difficult. Trim carpentry, on the other hand, I can make way more money doing it. And it's constant. It's not the custom piece of furniture for one single person. Everybody wants trim in their house, so it's much easier to sell.
So trim carpentry, that's going to be that's more like your architraves, doors, skirting boards. Because obviously we had this conversation last week as well, that obviously we have the different terms across the different. I was explaining to him about first and second fix last week, which is a UK,
absolutely.
Mainly a UK sort of saying.
Yeah.
And Josh is looking at me like we had 3 heads last week, and then obviously again, so because like trim carpentry, that's not something that we necessarily have per se in the UK.
Right.
Obviously, we all do this. We all do the job, but we just have different names for it, don't we? But it's interesting what you say
we
again.
Have different names. Yeah,
it was interesting.
Even the methods are different too.
Yeah, because you're very much like you use a lot of air guns. You know, a lot more air compressors on the States, aren't you? Compared to like the UK, we're not. We're more either battery or mains as a rule.
Pass load gas guns are really popular in the UK. I love
my pass load here as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Australia, I've seen that quite a lot as well. I follow a couple guys on YouTube. Scott Brown Carpentry is one of them, and he's always got some kind of battery or gas nailer. So yeah, it's different. Even the methods of the joinery, they're similar, but they're quite different as well.
Yeah.
What about how do you charge? Do you do hourly rate or do you do price charge by the job?
It's a funny one. I like to price it by the unit or the linear foot, and I think that's a really good way to make a lot of money. But you don't always see those unforeseen circumstances. And things change on the fly, customers change their mind, and sometimes you go, well, this is a change order. And some customers go, oh, I'm not paying for that, I just want this and this. And so it can make it really difficult. On the flip side of that coin, I like charging hourly, so you do leave money on the table sometimes, but it's a guaranteed way that whatever time I spent, I'm getting paid for.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a gamble.
Sort of thing. It's exactly what I do. I do the hourly rate for. I have a few developers that I work for, and I will charge them just an hourly rate because then they know exactly what they're paying. I feel, as you say, if I'm doing 8 hours, I know I'm taking X amount home or whatever. And I'm sort of happy with that because with the developers as well, it's repeat business all the time. You're always going to have that work. But when I'm doing work for a private customer, I do a very similar way that if we're doing skirting boards or whatever, I have a set price in mind. I use that as a price.
Right.
But as you know yourself, sometimes I'd say you're doing skirting board because how quickly you can put skirts on. And you look at the price, you're like, oh, what I can get done in a day is like 2-3 times what a day rate would be. So sometimes you have to sort of chop and change
absolutely. Yeah, you do. And I think the mentality as well with hourly versus price rate is when I'm doing it by the linear foot, I feel rushed, because I'm trying to maximize my profit. And sometimes I have to tell myself to slow down a little bit. You're trying to rush to get set up. You're trying to, be quick with the installation without compromising the quality. But when you're hourly, I just feel like I just go that extra little mile because it's like, I'm okay. I'm on the clock. I can take care of these little tiny details and I can really just take care of the customer to the very best of my ability. And, a current client I'm with now, it's all hourly and there's so many extra things that he just throws on. And there's no argument of price and, well, I don't like this or that. He knows what he's paying for. And so he just says, oh, while you're at it, take care of this for me. So I do win a lot more work from a client in that aspect too.
That's good. So you say you got into the furniture side of things or furniture making, which again, that sort of stems again with the hours that you don't see, or clients certainly don't always say that a table, for example, has got 50, 60 hours worth of work in it, which obviously is chargeable. And then you got the materials and all that on top. And it does take a ridiculous amount of time for a piece of furniture for that sort of thing. And it is a very thing. So when you said you like what's your sort of favourite sort of table or piece of furniture? What's your favourite sort of thing to make as a general rule?
I would say my style is mid-century modern. That's my favorite style because you get the tapered legs, you get the funky angles, you can add some texture in there. So I really do enjoy that. I was inspired by a craftsman named Jory Brigham out in California, and he's really who got me started on the furniture journey. I never spoke to him personally. I just watched what he was making. I fell in love with it. And to make a long story short, I went out to a lumber yard one day and I just went and bought about $500 worth of black walnut. And I said, well, it's either going to become something or it's going to become a burn pile.
A very expensive burn
pile. Either way, it's going to become something. Yeah. And Yeah, I really took my time. I dissected it. And honestly, I felt like I'd learned so much about it. And I missed a bunch of details, like I really wasn't sure about wood movement. And now I know how wood moves and all the characteristics of it. But I just wanted to build something with my hands. And so, it's like in school, I never did good in school. I failed geometry, and somehow now I'm a carpenter who's really good at math. But I learned these things through being in the trades and enjoying it. So, I think that if you enjoy something, no matter what it is, whether it's math or science or history, you will excel at it more than anybody else if you enjoy it.
That is a very good analogy and a very good point, actually.
Yeah,
I like that.
100%.
So, what's your favourite? I mean, you mentioned black walnut. I mean, I love American black walnuts. Absolutely love it. I mean, I've got my worktops are all black walnut because I love them. I love it that much. But what is your favourite wood then? What is your favourite wood to work with?
I would have to say black walnut as well because of the color. Of course, I mean, it's always got a beautiful figure to it. Not too many knots, a little bit of sapwood. And then I think the biggest one of all is the smell, and going down like the rabbit hole of information is I've become obsessed with woodworking in general. So I would study woods and species and movement, and then I would learn like black walnut has a chemical compound in it, that sweet smell. I don't know the scientific terminology off the top of my head, but it reacts in our brains, which is why we are so attracted to the smell of black walnut, that sweet smell. So it's really interesting to learn for me about the species of wood and what it does and the effects of it on a human, the effects of it on an animal. I went right down the rabbit hole. I've just become obsessed with it.
That's interesting. That's not something I knew about. And we had Jerry on from Grantland Timber, and he loves talking about wood and trees and that sort of thing. And he was very much more of the forestry side of things. Of the
Right.
the maintaining of the woodland and then the milling of it.
Yes.
And that was really interesting. But that's I mean, I've been in the trade close to 30 years now, and I never knew about woods with the different smells. And I know wood smells differently. Don't get me wrong, because obviously they smell so much different. But it's not something I really thought about the smells and how you react to them, and it's a thing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, even working with wood, and then at one point in my career, I had a lathe, so I was turning on the lathe, and then that gave me the opportunity to buy, Mexican cocobolo, camphor from East Asia. And so then there was a whole just variety of smells and also a variety of reactions to my skin. Mexican cocobolo, I came out in hives when I had it, turning on the lathe. I was like, okay, it's actually quite common. The same with, some cedars, and the camphore's got a very minty smell. So it smells great, but it can be extremely overpowering and just completely overtakes your senses. So you do have to be careful, and that led me down another rabbit hole of wood toxicity and learning about the effects it has on your eyes and ears and nose and skin, and of course your lungs. And then that led me down another rabbit hole of, okay, well, if I'm dealing with these woods, maybe I need, HEPA dust extraction. I need good equipment to collect this so I'm not breathing it in. So it really just completely, went wild.
From rabbit hole to rabbit hole.
I would have just said, it's just taking down the whole thing. That's just like proper nerd overload, isn't it? I'm sorry, but it is.
Yeah. So all these rabbit holes have eventually taken you to Festool and their dust extraction.
Correct. Yes, and I didn't go straight to Festool either. In my career, I went from in America we got a brand called Rigid.
Very popular actually.
Yeah. And then that led me to Bosch because I thought, oh well, I don't want to pay Festool prices. I think everybody at some point in their career says that. I'm not going to pay Festool price. And I was one of those guys.
Yeah.
And then I drank the green Kool-Aid and the rest was history. But I have gone through every brand of tool you can imagine before I got to Festool because I didn't want to pay Festool's prices. And all I learned is that I just wasted a bunch of money. But it was good because it gave me a really good background so I could give really good feedback. And yeah, eventually that did go down to a partnership with Festool in November of 2020. So
Nice.
yeah, it was like a bit of a wild goose chase, but I loved
Oh,
every minute.
cool. Talk to us some more about that. How did that materialize?
Yeah, so Festool Owners Group is on Facebook, and I decided to join because I wanted to see what all the hype was about. And so it was funny. I actually went down to a local Festool dealer and I bought their jigsaw, the Carvex 420 recorded model. And I know. It's a love-hate relationship.
Garbage. Absolute garbage.
But for what?
Come on, tell me. Why is it bad?
It's great at cutting curves. It's great at cutting curves as you're trying to cut a straight line. And yes, I know how to set it up properly because you meant to set it up, and I used to do that. And then you'd always find it knocks it out. And I got rid of mine. I actually ended up going back to the Trayon because it's so much better. But yeah, the Carvex is very much a love-hate.
A few people.
I understand that.
Yeah, it can be. It's, you have to use the gold blade that they offer for curves, and then you do have to set up the blade guide with the supplied Allen key that they give you. So there is a learning curve, but there is still some movement in the pendulum. I am aware of this, but getting back to where I started was I bought the Carvex, and I've probably only been in the trades. This was 2017, so I think I was only in the trades for maybe like 3-4 years.
Oh, so you started off getting into the Festool pretty early on, then, to be honest.
Pretty early.
Christ, it took taking me 15 odd years before I started with it.
Right.
So
yeah. So I got a head start on it, I guess, and I turned the jigsaw on, and I just twisted it on a dime, and I was just blown away by it. I couldn't believe it because I'd been using just crappy jigsaws until that time, and I thought, oh wow, this is something I've never experienced. Well, then, I go buy another Festool, the RO150. And then I was working for someone at the time. I wasn't making that much money. So I bought the sander. Then I didn't have the vacuum. I didn't have the paper. But I wanted to build furniture. I was, in a tight spot, and ended up selling it because I couldn't afford to run the machine with the paper and vacuum, So I do understand that part where people come from with price.
Well, I agree.
But yeah, getting back to where I got into a partnership with Festool, 2017, I bought their jigsaw. I was on Facebook, Festool Owners Group, and I was trying out some other tools in the meantime with them that I'd bought myself, and I just loved it. I thought, this is the brand I want to be with. They're German, they're good quality. I hate wasting money. Whatever I'm going to buy, give me the very best you can buy. I don't care what it is. And so, I started to defend the brand a little bit because what I had seen, I loved. And one of the higher-ups there saw me on Facebook defending the brand, and they were kind of taken back by it. So they actually sent me a limited edition CXS drill and then one of their watches. And bear in mind, I hadn't even been on Instagram at this point. I had never gotten anything free. I just watched everybody get free stuff. So I was at a loss, absolute loss for words that I had just gotten a free drill, let alone it was this limited edition one. And that drill was kind of my introduction to Festool drills. And then I was just hooked on them then. And it kept progressing very slowly, but surely, because I just wasn't making enough money to afford all of their tools. Fast forward 3 years later into November 2020, they decided to reveal kind of like a partnership program. And the first tool was the Traxel, the TS55 REQ. And, make this many posts about it and, all those details. And they kept that program on to this very day. So, up to this day, I get tools that are new released. So my latest tool that I just got was the KSC 60 and the CTC MIDI vacuum. And my job is to test it, a week or two prior to its initial release. And then once it's released, I can talk about it with the public and tell everybody, what I do and don't like, and I can do comparisons. And for them, it's seeding the market. But one thing I will say is, over the years of working with Festool and working with other brands is, people just see free tools and they just think that I'm rolling in free tools and it's just, oh, it's great, just use it. But there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes to making the content, to learning these machines. And my Facebook and Instagram inbox is constantly active with questions. The Facebook Festival Owners group, everybody goes to me with questions, the super technical ones with existing tools and questions with the new tools. So it's a full-time job. It really is. It can be a little exhausting at times, but I think the reason that I've been going so strong is because I actually enjoy it. Like, I love educating people. I love to inspire people. And that's another thing with this podcast. I hope that by the end of this podcast, whoever is listening, even if it's one person, if they're inspired to go out there to the shop and build something that they've never done, or go out to a job site and try something new and give them that confidence, I've achieved my goal.
That's good. So what's your favourite tool then?
Amazing.
Out of all of it, go on. Or give you top five then. Say go top five. Because a single is a bit hard because everything's very different, isn't it?
It is. Number one would probably be the track saw, but the new one, the TS55K series.
The cab.
Because it's got the thinner blade and the kickback stop. And I've had an incident with kickback on a Makita track saw. It wasn't Makita's fault. That's a good track saw, but it was my inexperience. So the safety feature there is great to have. Mm-hmm. Second favorite tool from Festool would probably be the Capex. And I know that's like a love-hate relationship again with people.
Do you have this?
Because some people
do you have the 60 or the 120?
Why is it love-hate?
I have the 60 and 120, but the main reason people complain about it, I think, is because of the power. So in the US, we only have 110. As like the UK, I know you guys have the 240, so I guess the power.
People do moan about the 110. We obviously have 110 on building sites still. And they do moan about the 120 that's underpowered on 110. And also the armature. There's problems with the armatures as well that are well known about on the 120s.
Right. And, not to get off track, but the armatures are now have been completely taken out of the design. It's now a magnet as of 2020. But, I learned so much about the story on the Capex. It's 5 years in development. They finally got it out there, and then the armature went, and they were just, they had no idea what to do. Eventually they came up with a solution, but everybody just thinks that everything works magically on, from the outside. They don't realize what goes on internally. Absolutely. But yeah, that's the Capex. I would say my third favorite is definitely the Domino. Again, for furniture, it's been a game changer. And I use it in trim carpentry too. So even if it means joining up a piece of baseboard or skirting, the fact that I can put it together, it's a completely flush, there's no adjustments, and, I glue it, there's more gluing surface with the tenons, and I know I can walk away from that, and I could say, 99% guarantee that seam is never going to move.
That's going to be the 500 you mainly use, then, is it?
Yeah, 500 for sure. I do have the 7, but I've probably only used it once or twice, to build a door and then join a live edge slab. But yeah, that's a beast of a machine. So that's probably my top 3. For 4 and 5, I would say it's a pretty difficult pick. I love their routers. They're very strange looking to a traditional, but I think the ergonomics work beautifully for me. And then the drills. Everybody says a drill's a drill, and I'll agree to a certain point, but they're smooth. The Centrotech system makes it so fast to swap bits out. You don't have to deal with the regular chuck. The 90-degree attachment, which, again, yes, you can get them with other brands, but, the system just works flawlessly. It really works well together. I love all the bits. I love the sustainer.
It's interesting.
There's always an argument to be made, isn't there? So I could buy a Milwaukee drill and I could put it in a sustainer. Yes, you can, but, for me, I value my time. So unless I can buy an insert from a company like Kaizen Foam or get the insert from Festool, I don't want to be wasting my time necessarily, trying to make it work. I want to buy the tool and I want to get to work and make money.
So that's really surprising with drills. I've never looked into it, and I've always been, expensive for drills. Like you said, is it just a drill, or is it definitely worth the investment?
Yeah, and here's the big thing, right? And this is going to apply to everybody. Is now I could be corrected because I'm not entirely sure about this, but from what I've seen, is Festool has the best warranty that I've seen in the industry so far in terms of.
I think so
3
too.
year, and that includes wear and tear. So if you want to throw it down a set of stairs, they will take it back. It's free shipping to and from, and a 48-hour turnaround time. If I was to do that with another brand, it could be gone for 6 weeks, and I don't know where it's gone. So
exactly.
You do pay.
I think the only one that rivals them is Hilti with that. I think they're on par, same 3 years.
Yeah.
Wear and tear, damage, they don't, no questions asked, they just replace.
Yeah, you're right about that. Cool. Hilti is another great brand. And again, I think, if it was like Hilti or Festool, it's like, well, Festool's in a sustainer, and then I can put that in my stack, or I can put it on the vacuum, and I can roll in, And it's not just usability, but it's presentation. I'm on a lot of finished homes, dealing with a lot of high-end clients, so I have to give off this, opulent high-end image because I am a very clean, very efficient. But the first thing people are going to do when you come to a job site is they're going to judge you based off the way that your van or trailer looks and the way that you look. So if I show up looking sloppy, they're thinking, well, this is my house, which is my baby. This guy's not going to respect it or take care of it. So, having that system, or even the Milwaukee Pack-Out system, that's another fantastic one. You do have to have good presentation.
Yeah, I've got the
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
It's one thing, again, we spoke about. It's one thing I always say. It's like, I like the way that when I'm working, I like all the tools being stacked up here. They're all nice and neat. Mm-hmm. The place is all together. There isn't tools everywhere. Everything's just nicely stacked in a way together.
Right.
And it looks good. And if you work heavy, it looks good. And you look clean, presentable, with like branded t-shirts, branded van. It makes it, it doesn't mean, by any means, it doesn't mean you can do the job or anything like that, but it gives a better perception.
Absolutely
and
not.
It looks more professional, in my mind as well.
It does, Yeah, because, here's the thing is, you can look the part, right? You can have all the shirts in the van, and you could do crap work, but the chances of someone investing that much money to look the part and then not actually be able to form, I'm sure it happens, of course, but the guy that's going to go buy $1,000 worth of sander and a dust extractor, I would typically think, well, okay, this guy has pride in his work, he's trying to do the best quality because he's just spent $1,000. That's
on a sander.
Quite a lot of money. Yeah.
And quite a few customers do actually compliment. I was in the cutting out the floor the other day, and the guy's quite elderly, 70 years old, he's a doctor, and he's started talking about Festool and the tools, and he like people who have some idea know they're good tools, he's like, oh yeah, you have to have quality tools. Absolutely. Then started getting into about doctor's tools, which I know nothing about, but yeah, I 100% agree with that. So you say you get a lot of people questioning you about Festool and lots of questions. You get a lot of people asking you to get you in with it as well.
Everything you can imagine. So I get a lot of people that ask me questions, and I help everybody out. Again, because I love it.
Yeah.
I also love the brand, but yeah, I get people. I don't blame them because I feel like I was that person at one point. How are you getting these free tools? Because again, it looks so great from the outside, and it is great, but you don't realize the work that goes into it to get to that point either. And I do get people that say, oh, I'm friends with Tommie Maloney, or some of them don't even say my name right now. I've had Timmy Maloney, and that was another one.
Gangster!
And, I'm friends with him, so yeah, can you cut me a deal? So, I don't put those people down. Nothing against them, but, I don't blame them for trying. But, as you know, if you're familiar with Festool, they don't do deals. Everybody's on the same page. And,
They do.
No,
they do a deal every time. Of course they do.
Every time.
You buy one box.
No, every time.
Every time. It just costs a shitload of money.
Every time I thought that might have been only in Australia, but the guy is like, they never do deals. They occasionally do you buy this much, you get another track for free, or
generally
something like that, or a jumper, or
Festool. The only ones that Festool tend to do would be things like the battery promotions on the 18-volt range. They come, so like when I bought the TS55 cab, I got it with a free battery promotion, so I actually bought bare unit, and then I already had some 18-volt chargers because I've got the drills as well. And I got 2 free batteries, and so it cost me something like £350 to get a cab, and the £800 saws.
You know, it's funny that you say that too, because apart from dissecting wood, I love dissecting business and marketing. It's just this obsession of mine. So I do watch the Festool market, UK, Australia, Canada, USA, and the UK actually does do deals like that with batteries. You can buy one, get one, or, get 2 batteries. The US and Canada, again, my memory isn't 100%, but I don't really think I've ever seen them do anything.
I think it's only Europe and UK that get. Well, UK is Europe, isn't it? So I think it's because obviously it's Germany. Festool's made in Germany, so I think it is only Europe that get the battery offers.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, so in the US, they kind of the Festool is split between you got Festool UK, Germany, or Europe, say, and then you got the USA and Canada as one. So they kind of, from what I can see, they leave the USA and Canada to do their own thing, but they don't do promotions. But I think the good thing about that is that from a dealer perspective, everybody's making the same profit and nobody's undercutting anybody, because in the trades is that people are going to constantly undercut each other just to get the job. And I refuse to participate in that because I know what I'm worth. Festool knows what they're worth. There's other companies, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Apple. You never see them necessarily doing these deals because they know what they're worth, So, I like to dissect those things.
What do you guys think about the battery system? Festool's, how are they going?
I'm going to say I think it's and not being biased, I think it's the best battery system, and I'll say 2 reasons why. One, in all of my years of using it, I've never had a bad battery. I've used DeWalt, and I've had a couple bad batteries, bad chargers, and it just annoys me because I just feel like I'm throwing money in the wind. The other thing that I learned is I asked Festool, I had a meeting with them one day, and I said, the CXS, I feel like I have to charge it once a week. I mean, it's 10.2 volts. Why does it last so long? I don't understand.
And
the
CXS is
tiny little installer's drill. It's good for like cabinet hardware, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing for like big tapcons. But they told me that the lithium ion quality was 10% above what is required. Whoever does the requirements per se, they go 10% above that, which is why their batteries are lasting so long and the quality is so much better. And it's down to technology too. You got the Airstream batteries, which are running cooler, so they're charging quicker, they're lasting longer. And as time goes on, lithium ion quality is getting better. The power packs are getting smaller, and yet they're still getting more powerful. So that's.
It's interesting when you say that about the batteries, because I've had some DeWalt tools. I've got a couple of DeWalt tools still for the odd thing. But as you say, I've got batteries that have failed, batteries that die, chargers die.
Yeah.
I've not got one Festool battery or charger that's cocked up on me at all. And I've had the 18-volt stuff now for, I think it's only been about 3 years, 4 years, just out of warranty. So about 3.5 years I've had the 18-volt system for now from Festool. And likewise with the Traxor, do you know what? You get a lot of, I think you get a lot of cutting out of the two. So the two 5.2, you can easily use the 4 the 5.2s, can't you, on the Traxor?
Right.
And so with the two 5.2 batteries on it, you can actually break down a lot of sheet material with just that one charge. So I find...
Well,
I don't... Quite often, if I'm doing a lot of breaking down, sometimes I'll break down 15 sheets, 8x4 sheets in a day.
Right.
So I will have to charge the batteries once because I've only got the two 5.2. I've got lots of 4s, but I've only got the two 5.2s. I need to get some more, actually. But I only have to charge them once, so effectively it's only 2 lots of batteries to rip down 15 sheets of like 3/4 birch ply.
Right, and
that's amazing.
The Trexor, is it the REB or the KEB?
The battery one, the new one. Or the newer one.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, the new one. So, I mean, that's the other thing. They've reduced it from a 2.2 to a 1.8 millimeter curved blade. So now the battery life is 50% longer. I mean, just by reducing the blade that much. It cuts
really quick, doesn't it?
So, they're doing their homework. And even as far as batteries go, I have a TI D15, which is the very first impact that Festool.
They're like rocking horse shit they are now to get hold of one, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've got it. I won't let it go. And it's, it had its issues, and they knew that. But I just held on to it, and I use it at home. But the batteries are still good. They still hold a charge. They still go great. I have no complaints. I mean, the new one's much better, of course, but. For what it was at the time?
I had a 12 volt. It was it must have been, I think it was a TXS, but it was the 12 volt one. And I sold it because I wasn't, it was literally sat in the tool room and it had been sat in there for a couple of years, not been used. So I sold it because it was, it was proper. It must have been 12 years old and the batteries were still good.
Yeah, even.
So what do you think about all these other tool brands coming out with a 40 volt range, like Makita, DeWalt? They're all coming out with the bigger power, but then a lot of them they're coming out with, well, you can't use this old tool now. We're going to have to buy the new battery with the new tool, and they don't connect. Do you reckon they're sort of branching out that way, and then batteries are going to be taken out of?
I think distribution. They're trying to maximize their profits, because when you think about it, you've got cordless tools, right? There's only so many cordless tools you can make. So I think that they're running out of ideas.
I think that could be.
And so I think, well, we've developed all the tools. We've, say we've developed 5 drills. Well, how do we develop drill number 6? What can we change that's different? Well, we can give it more power. We can give it a longer battery life. Oh, okay. Well, then let's make a bigger battery. But the fact that you can't make those across platform, I think can be frustrating, because it's like you show up to the job site and I've got my drills and it's like, oh, I've got the wrong battery.
Or the wrong charger with you, or everything's flat and
or do I need a special charger? I think when it comes to maybe a 40 volt battery in something like their cordless lawnmowers from Makita and stuff like that, then it works. So you do need that extra juice. But at the same time, I did test Makita's 40 volt drills for a Journal of Light Construction article that I contribute to, and it was so heavy. I mean, fantastic drills, lovely drills, but they were so heavy. So, it's how much power do you want to put on a drill? I mean, it can only be so powerful, right? So...
There's a video going around of a DeWalt one that snapped on it. I'll send it to you guys after this. So the DeWalt drill, I think it's in a 40 or 54 volt flex volt battery. The whole drill is snapped, like completely snapped while they're drilling through some timber.
And then you've got that drill on the back of your tool belt all day. So, as far as like tools go, I'm trying to find stuff that is not sacrificing in power, but is also lightweight. So I'll have, I got like a Martinez titanium speed square. I got the hammer, and, offers more benefits than just the sheer lightweight. It
looks pretty, that's what it is.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah, it was a buy once, cry once, but it's durable. But getting back to the batteries, I think that they're just trying to try new avenues to keep, the business flowing, because they're running out of
keep them on their platform, rather,
What about Festool? Have you heard anything from them? They're going to try and compete and go big, or are they just keeping with the same?
It's obvious that you have to, unless you stay with the times, you're going to get left behind. So you may have seen new cordless tools, like obviously you got the KSC 60 now. They got the Impact that came out, and again, they had to price it much lower to be competitive with the rest of the market, because people say, well, I'm not going to drop $400 on a bad tool when I could go get a Milwaukee one
the Impact,
$150.
The Impact is good, don't get me wrong, but it is very expensive
It is.
For an impact driver body only, I bought it body
yeah.
only, and it was probably
Yeah.
I don't know. It was close to £300 at the time when it came out. And
yeah.
it is expensive, but you know what? Again, I've already got a load of the other 18-volt batteries and the drills, and I'm like, I'm keeping with the same platform.
I knew what I was. I'm paying for the quality, and I'm going to pay for the warranty of it. So for me, that wasn't a big deal. But yeah, as far as those tools go, going cordless, yeah, you're going to start seeing a lot more cordless. I can't necessarily discuss too much at the moment, but I can say that, there's a heavy emphasis on cordless tools because that's where everybody's going. And the crazy part about it now is that a lot of these battery tools are more powerful than the corded, particularly in the USA, because, you've got a battery here that's 12 amp hours. Well, our circuit breaker might be 15 or 20. Yeah. So, it's
especially with things like because even the TPC, the newer 18-volt drill, they had a problem with because they couldn't get the chip, could they? It was in Japan. You couldn't get the raw materials for making the chip.
Yes.
But the power on that TPC drill is unreal. Even with a 4-amp battery, it's like super strong into it. You know what I mean? But I think you're right that they are going to go more. Because obviously they've tried. I know with the development they've tried certain tools that don't work, which it takes time. Right. But the thing is, when they didn't work 3 years ago, they might now work because the technology's moved on, especially with the batteries. I mean, I got the new Festool app the other day because I've been waiting for Festool to bring out a new app that wasn't shite, and I actually managed to update all the software on my batteries off my phone. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So I mean, the fact of
and that's across the globe.
So the fact of you can actually upgrade your batteries at home without having to send them anywhere. All you need is connect to your phone. It's clever. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Through Bluetooth.
It's really clever and brilliant.
Yeah, so they can take that same technology like a computer. It's like your phone. You get an update for it, and most of the time it's you got these new features. But yeah, you're going to see a lot more cordless. But at the same time, they're still figuring out the market. It's like, well, if I make this into a cordless tool, is it worth doing 2, 3, 4, 5 years of development for an item that might flop? So there's brands like Ryobi, and their turnaround time is like 6 weeks. They will design a product from start to finish within 6 weeks and put it on the shelf. And if it doesn't perform within 90 days to whatever standard that they have, they'll take it off the shelf. If it does perform, okay, we'll keep it on there, and then maybe we'll take that tool and evolve it. Which is why, like, if you ever go, for me, I go to a big box store like Home Depot. Ryobi's always got something new out. It's like, wow, I never saw that before. What is that? And they're just bringing out new things all the time. It could be anything from a motorized brush for cleaning your van to, the battery caulking guns, all kinds of stuff. They're changing things up. Festool, they'll spend time on it, but they want to make sure that their time is well spent, which I agree with.
Yeah, they spend a lot of money on R&D, don't they? An awful lot of money. It's immense.
Tons.
German engineering is fine, so we know German engineering is, without a doubt, I have to say, it's the best in the world.
Yeah, there's two sides to that argument with the development of Festool. People look at the Capex and go, well, for $1,500, it shouldn't have this and this problem. And I say, well, okay, you're partially correct there, right? It's the most expensive saw on the market. It shouldn't have these problems. But at the same time, they think that they're making hand over fist. And I said, well, it's 5 years of development just to get the saw. And then you got to produce it, get it into production. Then you got to ship it across the seas. It goes on a boat, goes through all these shipping, goes to the dealer. So it passes through all these hands before it actually gets to you at your shop.
And then you got your 3 years warranty on top of that as well, built in.
Yeah. And if I took a Capex from today, in 2023, and compared it to 2020 and 2017, none of those saws inside would look the same. And what they don't tell you is, like, they'll find a bearing inside, and they'll go, you know what? We found that this bearing is 50,000 hours. This one's 100,000. So now we're going to use this new bearing with 100,000 hours, but they don't publicly release it because, I guess they just don't think that maybe it's worth it to do a newsletter and say, hey, everybody, we just upgraded a bearing inside, People go, oh, okay, well, you should have done that in the first place. But, you can't perfect everything right off the bat. You have to start somewhere, just like a piece of furniture. You don't have the end result. You just have to start and then go from there.
So they continue innovating and improving tools as they go along. They'll have the Capex and they'll release it and they'll keep working to improve it. And then when it's time they've made enough improvements, then they'll release that new saw in production.
And that's kind of where the armature
with the improvement.
Capex, I'm not sure how many years it took them. 2020, and I think the Capex came out in 2007, maybe.
I think it was
something
6 or
like
7,
that.
yeah.
That was through Gary Katz here in the USA. And he was the first one to test it and kind of introduce it to the market. And he's still a very big prominent name here in the USA as an educational trim guy. But it took a lot of years. So it's really interesting to see the backstory and behind the scenes, but not everybody's that understanding.
No. I think that's probably a good point. I think to leave today's episode on. That's been a really good little chat there, Tommy. Thank you very much for coming on.
Absolutely.
It's been a real pleasure, and you've made a very good first transatlantic guest. Josh, have you got anything you'd like to finish off and add with?
I think we're gonna name this podcast Festool and more Festool.
We'll have to do.
We'll get a lot of clicks. I tell you.
Like I said, I want to say thank you for obviously inviting me on this. This is my first podcast. For those of you listening, and obviously it was a lot more heavily focused on Festool, and I guess because I have a lot of inside information, stuff like that, so it was good. But I'd be more than happy to do another episode and 2 or 3, and talk more about business and education, and even things like health and stuff like that. Taking care of your body, because as us men, especially on the job site, we don't do that. So I would love to come back and do a couple more episodes. And like I said, my end goal is to inspire and educate the listeners out there. So I hope that they enjoyed it too. And I'd love to hear feedback from everybody. And
we'll pencil you in for another 4 months' time or something.
We will be live on I think it's about 23 different Audible platforms, so you can grab us anywhere. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them, and we shall get to them in due course. Again, all Tommie's social links will be in the description down below if you would like to reach out to contact him also. Right, I think that's great. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening. Cheers.
Thank you.